This week we have a little thing called the Torrey Conference. It's the 75th annual Torrey Conference. Last time I asked, no one had been to all 75, right? That's still true? Yeah, okay. Neither have I. You should have gotten this in your mailbox, this blue conference at a glance. You also will be getting this conference guide for on Wednesday, but you can also download this from the website. I think it's up on our Biola homepage and some links to this pamphlet. But the theme is going to be, Blessed are the Peacemakers, redeeming relationships in the conflicts of our lives. This is not going to be a conference about just finding harmony or peace or just getting along. This is not going to be a conference where we try to gloss over or kick under the rug our differences or even our sins. No, to talk about peacemaking is inevitably to talk about conflict. The two issues go together. The scriptures are interested in peacemaking as an end, but they recognize that our lives are filled with conflicts. Indeed, I want us to talk about and think about that this morning a little bit, because conflicts seem to be everywhere. It seems you can't walk very far in life without coming up with a conflict. There seems to be some kind of Murphy's Law. It almost sounds scriptural. It almost seems like there should be a verse where 2 or 3 are gathered, there will be problems. Because this seems to be kind of the natural law. I know in my home I have 2 sweet daughters. There they are right there, Carly and Abby. This picture's about a year old, but Carly, the darker-haired one, is 17 now, and Abby, the redhead, is 13. I should get a Pulitzer for this picture because, you know, rarely are they this close and smiling at each other. I mean, they're almost touching, I think. This is incredible. Because, in fact, you know, my experience at home is that there is endless family conflicts. I had permission to talk about from them to talk about their conflicts today. Here are the top 5. Top 5 conflicts. Abby's 13, Carly's 17. Conflict number 1. Should Abby be able to borrow Carly's clothes, caveat, without permission? That's conflict. Abby, check yes. Carly, check no. Okay? Should Carly be able to work in the front room on her art projects? Carly's an artist. There's clay and there's chalk dust everywhere. Carly, yes. Abby, check no. Okay? Who gets to watch their shows on the big TV, right? Everybody else has a big TV. Ours isn't so big, but it's bigger than the other one. Who should get to watch their shows on the big TV? Of course, both Carly and Abby check yes, but that's a problem. Should the house be generally as neat and orderly as Abby's room? I have one child who is a neat and orderly child. I mean, everything is in its place. I have another child who's, let's say, relaxed about organizations and order. Which of these children's theme should be the dominant theme of the house? There's a lot of discussion about this. Should one sister be able to do or say anything when the other has friends over? You can hear the words, right? Carly, I'm having friends over. Do not do or say anything. Okay. Of course, the conflicts go both ways. So yeah, I think we all experience conflict. In fact, I asked 200 of you the other day, what are some of the conflicts that you experience? And you know, this was a powerful time of reading through these note cards. And let me just read a few of these. There are conflicts with parents. Listen to these. My mother wants me to compromise my faith and go back to how I used to be before this amazing summer I spent serving God. But I can't. I won't go back to how I was. I expressed hurt, and my dad left the house. My ambitions for my life are conflicting with my parents' plans and ambitions for my life. My dad wanted me to stay in pre-med, and I wanted to change to nursing. My parents are trying to overprotect me as though they do not trust me to make the decisions of my own life. My boyfriend and I went ahead with our engagement because the reasons my dad gave against it were not sound and biblical. Now there is a huge conflict with my parents. I wanted my dad to stop drinking, but he didn't. My brother wanted me to forsake my relationship with Christ so that we could relate more and more and have a better relationship. My mother feels uncomfortable about me growing up. It feels I can never do enough to make her satisfied. There's a conflict when I communicate with my sister. It seems like I repeatedly answer the questions wrong or ineffectively. So we have conflict with parents, especially at your age as you're kind of individuating. I suspect this is going to be an arena of conflict for you. We have conflict with friends. Here are some more cards. My friends and I believe that the other wasn't making an adequate effort in the relationship. My friend stopped talking to me this summer and didn't tell me why, leaving me to try to understand it on my own. I have a friend who's a bit of a mooch. And I was very bitter because he liked to borrow things for long periods of time. A male friend of mine is disrespectful towards women, including myself, and I called him out on it and a fight ensued. A friend sent me down and gave me reasons as to why she no longer wants to be my friend. A friend was critical of my sleep habits because I was tired a lot. There are also conflicts about ideas, and many of the cards I received focused on that. I had a conflict with my girlfriend's parents. Well, I guess it was parents, but over whether or not my tattoos are biblically permissible. I got 2 of those. My other friend and I were feeling like our other friend was continually being insensitive and always had to be right or to always be the best. I had a conflict with an Arminian who thought that all Calvinism is heresy. This one simply says, he saw God one way, I saw God another way. And this last person, I thought I was right, and they thought they were right. Sometimes it boils down to simply that. So conflicts are ubiquitous. They seem to be everywhere in our lives. And so the natural question, at least one of the natural questions is, why? Why does it seem you just can't walk very far without being involved in a conflict? Well, why don't you turn to James chapter 4? Why don't we bring the lights up? And turn to James chapter 4. Because as usual, James tackles things pretty straight on, pretty straightforward. James chapter 4. And I think it's up here on the board too. James seems to have the very same question in verse 1. What causes fights and quarrels among you? There's the question. Why is conflict so ubiquitous? And again, in customary style for James, he answers it straightforwardly. Don't they come from your desires that battle within you? You want something but don't get it. You kill and covet because you cannot have what you want. You quarrel and fight. Well, he goes right to the heart of the matter right away. He says, don't these conflicts come for 2 reasons? And there's 2 key words here I want you to look at in the next slide. The word desires, which is the Greek word hedone, which is the word we get hedonist from. And then the verb to want, epithumeo. Now these words, there actually can be neutral words for desires. In other contexts, desires, wants are not a bad thing. In fact, we might say our desires and our wants, let's call them our felt needs. Our felt needs is a great part of what it means to be human. In fact, I would say that a great part of being human is being needy. You and I are needy people. We were born needy. We're like these bundles of needs. It's a good thing that when we're born, these bundles are small. Because when we're born, we are all need. I mean, it'd be a real bummer to have a 6-foot infant come in and go, boom, milk, you know. That would be scary. Yeah. It's a good thing at our neediest moments that we're small. At least a good thing for the parents. I can think of other good reasons too. But we don't really stop becoming bundles of needs. That's kind of what it means to be human. I mean, even if you take Maslow's hierarchy of needs as a starting point, for those of you who studied that. Of course, we have the basic survival needs, right? For food, for water, for shelter, even for reproduction. Basic kind of survival needs are a part of what it means to be human. We have safety needs, right? Personal safety, financial safety, material safety, health and well-being, safety against accidents. These are a part of what it means to be human, to desire. These are neutral, natural, normal desires. We have desires for relationship, for love and belonging, for intimacy, to be loved and to give love, for, of course, a relationship with God, we as believers would say. We have desires for esteem and respect, for other people to recognize, acknowledge, and validate us, validating what's valuable in us. We have needs for purpose. This is probably the number one need you have, whether you recognize it or not. Probably the number one fear you have is that I won't find my purpose. You have a need to find your purpose. And with that, you have a need for identity. Who am I? What do I do well? Where am I going to stand? Where am I going to contribute from? And when we get into needs of identity, then we really start to splinter. Some of you have a need for excellence. Sometimes it's called the need for perfection. You like to do things with great integrity. You like to do things perfectly and right. Some of you have a need to be needed, to be helpful to people, to nurture others. Some of you have a need for to be unique and creative. You've got interesting ideas. You've got interesting expressions. So uniqueness and creativity is part of what you feel a need for. Some of you have a need to be insightful. You're interested in questions and problems. These are those among you who may want to go on into academics or research. Some of you have a need to be against something that is wrong, a need to be against injustice. James says here, not only are there differences in needs among you, with each of you needing and wanting different things, but some of these needs are at war within you. We want all of these things within us at the same time. Another need that Maslow talks about, by the way, is the need to transcend. We have the need, in a sense, to rise above, to, I guess you would say, as one slogan puts it, we have the need to be all that we can be. You and I have the need to maximize our potentials. See, we're finite creatures, you and me. We have limits. But the problem is we also have imagination. So while I may be here on my need to be insightful scale, I can imagine being really insightful. I can imagine this. Now I'm here and I want to go here. I can imagine being really insightful. I can imagine being really brilliant. Well, I don't feel so brilliant sometimes. But I can imagine being really brilliant. I can imagine being really successful. And I have the need to kind of transcend the limits, the things that get in the way of my success. I have the need to be maybe one of the great athletes, and I can imagine that because I've seen great athletes. I want to transcend the things that hold me back. I have the need to be beautiful, to be celebrated, to be secure. So we have the gift of imagination. We can imagine what it would mean to kind of transcend our limits. But of course, the problem is there are limits. Now, my dog Winston, there he is. All right, good-looking guy. I'm pretty sure my dog Winston doesn't sit around going, I could be the fastest dog. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't have that imagination. Pretty sure he doesn't sit around going, I could be a 2-time winner of the Westminster Dog Show. No, I don't think he has that. But you and I do. We have these needs, and we can imagine with these, and with these imaginations comes these expanding desires. Well, I'm suggesting to you that, in a sense, this is all cool. This is how we are created to be. We are bundles of needs. We are people who have imagination, and that imagination impels us on to, in a sense, to be who God created us to be. So the question is, when does a need or a desire become a sinful desire? Because this, in fact, in the context of hedone and epithumeo here, James is not talking about our regular needs. He's saying there's something that happens when our normal, regular needs become sinful desires and they cause conflict. So how do these become what is sometimes translated in this passage as lusts, passions, jealousies, or sinful desires? What takes a need from being a normal, natural one? Well, I would suggest to you it is this. It is our over-attachment to these needs. We want something, and we can't have it, and the first thing that happens is there's an obstacle. And frequently that obstacle comes in the form of another person. Not always, but often. We want something, we see it coming, we can imagine getting it, but then an obstacle comes in. We want, but as James says, we do not have. And at this point, it's not yet a sin necessarily. I mean, you and I run into obstacles all the time with our needs, these bundles of needs. But first thing that comes is an obstacle. Our needs collide with the needs of others. And now there's tension. Now there is something in the way of transcending our capacities and our potentials. And then what happens here often is we can either step back and hold that need loosely, or we can grip it. We can over-attach. We can start holding it tightly and begin to say, this is a need I must have to be happy. Another author has called these needs, when they come to this point, our programs for happiness. Our PFHs, I'll say. When a need becomes a program for happiness, in order for me to be happy, I must succeed in this way. In order for me to be happy, I must be regarded in this light by others. Well, that's when we begin to hold things too tightly. And when two people come together and they're holding their needs so tightly, then we have a conflict that James calls one that's potentially sinful. Let's say I had a tennis ball, which I do. And let's say I put some money in it. You're thinking, how are you going to do that? It's because I cut a hole in the tennis ball. Let me see if I can find the hole. There it is. So let's say I take this $20 bill, roll this puppy up. Little Andrew Jackson getting folded up there. Stick it in here. I didn't practice this. It's not easy to do. Got to fold it up smaller. Okay, it's in. So I assume this would be attractive to any of us to have this ball, so I need a volunteer to get the ball. Anybody want the ball? $20. Right down here. Come on up. What's your name? Ilana. Ilana? You can come up here. So here you go. Oops. All you need to do, sorry, it fell in the crystal jar. All you need to do is just stick your hand in there and pull it out. Now wait a second. Once you touch it, you can't let it go. Okay? All right. So just go ahead and pull it out. Stick your hand. No, you can't tip it. You got to pull it. Go ahead, just pull it out. You got it. There's yours. You know, that wasn't supposed to happen. Patrick, can I borrow some lunch money today? Thanks, yeah. I tried that 4 times on 4 different girls, including my daughters. They couldn't get out of there. But Ilana, well done. Well, if that had gone the way I'd planned it to, she wouldn't have been able to get it out of there. A long time ago in Southeast Asia, some clever trapper figured out how he would trap monkeys. And what he would do is he'd take a gourd, which probably looked a little bit like that shape, a gourd, and he would cut a hole just big enough for the monkey to get the fist into. and he would put some fruit in there. And he would tie one end of the gourd with a rope to a fixed stake some 20 yards back. And the monkeys would eventually smell the fruit. They would come to the fruit. They would stick their hand in there and put their fists around the fruit, which was larger than the hole, and they couldn't get their hand out. And of course, now the monkey has a choice, to the degree that monkeys know they have choices. He can either realize that he's caught and let go and run away after repeated attempts to pull his hand out, or he could just sit with it. And of course, what eventually would happen is the trapper would catch him and ultimately kill him. So it was up to the monkey to decide, how much do I need this? And far more frequently, I understand, the monkey would hang on for dear life, because this is something he had to have, and therefore he could not let go. And of course, it would result in this downfall. Well, James 1, this is another passage in James, seems to be talking about a similar process, right? We're told that this is how sin comes about. Each one is tempted when by his own evil desire, and there you have epithumeo there, now again as a sinful desire, his own sinful desires, he is dragged away and enticed. Well, that sounds a lot like our monkey. Having taken maybe what was once a normal and natural need, grabbed it and held on to it and not been able to let it go, the sin now just drags you away. And sometimes we imagine this like it's a hook that has hooked us, but it's more often than not, we are the hook. We are the ones who have grabbed it, and we will not let it go. And so then the desire has conceived. Notice the desire, which could have been neutral, natural, now morphs into something else. It's conceived, and it's given birth to something else, to sin. And when it's full grown, we might say full blown, this gives birth to death. Well, this seems to be the kind of process that James is worried about, and we're not told in James what the specific concern is. But there are some programs for happiness, and it could be in this congregation that James is writing to, is that there was a desire for status. That some people were wanting more status than others. He has to warn them in the book against favoring the rich and not the poor. There are some people that may have been grabbing for some status, some superiority in the congregation. It's a need maybe for esteem or respect that is normal, but they begin to over-attach to it. It became their program for happiness, and they could not let go. And this began to produce conflicts. Now, I can tell you what mine are. I have some in my life that I typically want to grab on and don't let go. Early on, I became very attracted for the desire to succeed in what I was doing. And while that is a normal and good desire, at some point, I became so attached to it that when people got in my way, I would become irritated. Friends would call me, hey Todd, do you want to go out? And we're going to go out. And it was less an aggressive thing and more kind of a detachment. No, and I would hold on to this need for success because time with my friends meant less time to study. And I couldn't seem to balance those two because I was so attached to this need. And after a while, friends just stopped calling. Because I was holding on to this thing in the gourd and I could not pull my hand out. I have a desire for a perfect family. I have a desire to come home and have my children be just sweet and getting along, dinner on the table, because I think it mirrors somehow to myself my own goodness. If my family's good, it makes me feel good, and I want to be good. Please let me be good. And so I hold on to this thing tightly, this goodness, my own goodness, and I hold on to it tightly. And when the family's not good, well, I get irritated. Now, there's time when that's appropriate. There's a time when anger is appropriate when you're raising a family, but there are times when you know it's a result of your own grasping too hard. I would like universal approval, please. May I have that? I remember after Magic Johnson won a few of his championships, he walked into a restaurant in Los Angeles, the Lake, he's a Laker, a past Laker, walks into a restaurant in Los Angeles, the whole restaurant gives him a standing ovation. Why does that stick in my mind? That would be awesome. I would love universal approval. And I get irritated when people keep me from getting universal approval. You know what I would really like? I'd like freedom from fear. And when people aren't safe around me, when I can't secure and guarantee safety, which of course is impossible, there are conflicts in my life and in my family. So conflicts come from our over-attachment to what might be good needs. But let me tell you the good news. Conflicts can be our friend. And there's 3 ways they can be our friend. One is they can help us recognize and confess our attachments. It's kind of like those lights on the dashboard of your car. When something's wrong, the light goes on and tells you something is wrong. And sometimes when we get into conflicts, there's an opportunity for us to go, something may be wrong here. Lord, is it possible that I have some program for happiness that has gotten so important to me that I can't let it go? Some program for happiness apart from you. Well, that's one of the things we can do with conflict. That's a gift. To hit a conflict and go, Lord, what are you trying to show me about my program for happiness? Another thing that makes conflict a friend is compassion. Because I have an opportunity at that moment to ask myself, what is the need that this other person has? Because our needs are running into each other. We're having a conflict. How can I understand better what their need is? It doesn't mean you'll be able to satisfy it every time. It doesn't mean you will. But it'll give you the chance to say, Lord, should this be satisfied? Should I help them with their need rather than my own? It's an opportunity to be other-centered. To look at the conflict and go, perhaps, Lord, biblically speaking, relationally speaking, does love compel me in this context to say, their need is a good one. And it may involve a sacrifice on my part. That may not be the case every time. Sometimes we may have to agree to disagree and then hold our needs loosely. But other times it gives us a chance. The conflict can lead to compassion. And the last one, and I so wanted a C here, but I couldn't get a C. So it's going to be an L, is to love our neediness. Wow, this is a little counterintuitive. Conflict gives us a chance to love our neediness. St. Paul in 2 Corinthians 12 writes this. This is where Paul's just referring to some thorn in the flesh. We don't know what it is. But it's obviously something with which he is in conflict, whether that's some sin in his life or another person or an illness. And after struggling with this and praying that it would go away, praying that the conflict would go away, Lord, just please take it away. He got the sense, no. Here's what he understood from God. God saying, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more about my weaknesses so that Christ's power may rest in me. That is why, for Christ's sake, and get this, I delight in my weaknesses. Wow. Really? A little hyperbole maybe, Paul? A little exaggeration? You delight in your weakness? Well, you know why? Because he says there's only one program for happiness that's going to really bring joy. And so, Lord, when I come against my weaknesses, you are inviting me to hold it loosely, to hold these programs for happiness loosely, to not overattach these needs. I love it, Paul says. I love it when I feel this weakness because I know it drives me to God. I love my neediness because it drives me to God, to his program for joy. Just like being sleepy, the need for sleep, you can delight in laying down on a bed. You can say, I love my need for sleep because in a minute I'm going to lay down on a bed. That's going to be awesome. I love my neediness. I love my hunger because in a minute I'm going to go to, Felix Continental Restaurant in Orange and have a crab stuffed halibut, which is what I would do. I love my hunger because I then get to go enjoy a meal. Well, how about this? I love my neediness because I get to go to God and experience forgiveness, atonement, love, peace, healing, redeemed relationships. Lord, I love my neediness because it takes me to you. Wow, conflicts are an opportunity to love our neediness. And it's not just about our needs. Because when we love the atonement, when we love forgiveness, when we love the gospel, we are glorifying God. Lord, I love that. I love that. And so in Torrey this week, we'll be asking these questions. We'll look more at what gives rise to conflict in those 3 days. We'll look more at what God desires, what forgiveness looks like and unity looks like, what redeeming relationships can look like, the importance of forgiveness, and why the gospel is at the center of it all. And this may be so we can redeem relationships and indeed pray rightly. Because James suggests, you ask and do not receive because you ask wrongly to spend it on your passions. And so we'll learn to pray as well. Well, let's pray now. Heavenly Father, we present ourselves to you in all our bundle of neediness. We thank you that you love us. Lord, teach us to discern those programs for happiness and to hold them loosely, to have compassion on the needs of others, and Lord, to love our neediness so that we might be led to you more deeply. I pray these things in Jesus' name, amen. See you at Wednesday, 9:30, Torrey Conference here. Have a great day.
We hope you enjoyed this message. Biola University offers a variety of biblically centered degree programs, ranging from business to ministry to the arts and sciences. Learn more at biola.edu.